Hi, welcome to Speaking of Excellence, the official podcast of the Quality Professionals Awards for Further Education and Employability. This is the second part of 2 episodes with a trio who received a highly commended award at the Quality Professionals Awards in 2024. In part 1 you will have heard Lou chatting to Professor Daryll Bravenbour from Middlesex University, Dr Mandy Crawford-Lee from UVAC and Clare Dunn from the Open University about how apprenticeships and universities have come together in recent years in, as they see it, a mutually disruptive but overall positive way. In this second part we dive into the project itself and not only discuss how the project came about and the difference it's making for career progression in healthcare, but some of the wider impact it has had and why it matters and what the future might hold for the project and higher level apprenticeships more broadly. Please head over to qualityprofessionalsawards.org for more inspiration and information about the Quality Professionals Awards this year. Before I leave you to enjoy the episode, I just want to give a very brief mention to our amazing supporters, including headline sponsors the IEP and OEL. Please do take a moment to find out more about their work in employability and further education. Enjoy the episode.
Let's now narrow into the focus of your project that you did. So the project that you were highly commended for at the awards in 2024, and I particularly loved actually one of the judges' comments that we put on the screen during the event, and the judge, the way they'd articulated it, they talked about their excitement at watching how this project might develop and the impact that they think it's going to have in future. So if I can come to you first to kind of, Claire, tell us a bit about the project. Feel free to bring Doyle and Mandy in at any point that you want to. I really loved, by the way, in your opening introduction, that I see how you've ended up in a recognition of prior learning role when you look at how the importance that you personally placed on transition between FE and HE. So it's really exciting to see the role, if you like, that you've ended up in. It's as if you were always meant to be there, Claire. You've ended up exactly where you were meant to be. So talk to us about your project, what it does, what it's about, and then let's unravel it a bit more from there.
Okay, so it was a Health Education England, now obviously NHS England funded project, which we called Recognising Talent for Care, Pathways for Progression to Higher Education. So it came about really in response to the Talent for Care ambition to increase career progression opportunities for support workers, and also the astonishing kind of report that showed that 14,000 kind of applicants were declined from admission to higher level health and social care registered programs. So the aim of the project really was to remove barriers to progression for learners studying apprenticeships and wanting to enter higher level programs. So we specifically focused our project on the Senior Healthcare Support Worker apprenticeship, which is a level 3 apprenticeship, in order to develop opportunities for learners who wanted to improve their careers and develop their careers to be able to enter those higher level programs. With apprenticeships, obviously we know that apprenticeships are levelled, but so they, we have a clear understanding of the depth of learning that apprenticeships will do, but what they haven't got is obviously a credit value, and as a consequence of that, they're often seen not in the same light as other traditional qualifications by admissions tutors, because I think there's a lack of understanding or preconception of their worth and their value in comparison to other kind of entry qualifications. So we wanted to remove those barriers and try and eliminate those preconceptions that higher education institutions may have on the value of apprenticeship programs.
That's really exciting. And I'm presuming in the way that you describe that, Claire, that although it was done within the context of the NHS project, the same principle of that could be lifted and used in many different ways, not just within this one.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that was probably the most exciting part, actually, because a key part of the project that we used in order to kind of ascribe the credit value to this particular apprenticeship was by using the SEEK credit level descriptors, and that kind of using that, we SEEK as an organisation and network of UAL had something that we could could use in a way as a solution to help support this. They're not subject specific, so they are absolutely applicable to sectors and outside of the health profession. Our project just happened to focus on the health sector.
Yeah, maybe I'll chip in there. So Claire and I both worked on the SEEK credit level descriptors, and one of their purposes was to enable people to understand learning expectations for a wide range of kind of contexts, including apprenticeships specifically. So the 2021 iteration of the SEEK credit level descriptors explicitly were designed to enable people who were, perhaps you were developing an apprenticeship program, or perhaps you wanted to reflect upon progression routes for apprenticeships. You could use the credit level descriptors to understand learning expectations in that design process. So, and the fact that they go from level 3 right through to level 8 means that there's a common set of use of language throughout the descriptors that is understood by higher education, and which means that you can use that to articulate the value of apprenticeships in a way that will be perceived as being valuable by those people who make the decisions about whether to accept the people progressing into registered professions or other high level programs from level 3 and above.
Thank
Claire,
you.
back to you.
Claire. So Claire, let me ask you, if I may, to just unpick it a little bit more. So in terms of, it strikes me as a layperson looking in on it that one of the key pieces for a project of this nature is who needs to know this. How do you get this out there, and who needs to have it communicated that this is even a possibility that you can do what you've done with this project? Because I'm guessing it's not just, as you picked up on early, Mandy, about universities, it's also about other parts of the system understanding the art of the possible. So it would be great to hear a little bit more about that. Now let me see if I can get Claire to come back in to perhaps start that off with your experience of it, and then Mandy, Daryll, feel free to come in as and when.
I think in terms of the project, how we tried to get the message across was through the kind of development of a national progression agreement, so that providers could kind of put themselves out there to actually say that we recognise the value of the value of the specific apprenticeship that we focused on, and that they would see that in equal right against kind of non-traditional in terms of more traditional entry routes. So I think fundamentally the core kind of audience for us was kind of admissions tutors. It was really interesting, though, actually working in this project, being from the Open University, because actually, it's very core to our mission as a university that we are open entry. So these sort of barriers that we were seeing, I was quite astonished actually when I joined the project to hear about these barriers to progression, because that's something as an organisation we strive by our mission to try and avoid. So I think for me, getting the message to those kind of admissions tutors, those that are responsible for making those decisions, was fundamental kind of to the project.
Is that so? When does the project that you guys have done, has it been? I'll ask you a bit about your collaboration in a moment between Middlesex and the OU and UVAC. What's the? I can see how you can get those messages out within Middlesex and within the OU. How do you intend, or how have you already got those messages out there to other universities for their admissions tutor? Is that still part of the project as it's emerging?
One of the main added value benefits of UVAC being involved is that they are a network of the vast majority of higher education providers that are active in this space. There is no better network that you could use to disseminate key messages, such as the ones that came out of the project, to a interested and engaged audience of providers, and that includes FE and independent, etc. So we explicitly used UVAC, used the UVAC conference, used UVAC network activities to talk about the issues and the barriers, to talk about the proposed solutions at various stages of the project. We sought to not just to sort of do the work ourselves and then show and tell, but actually to have presentations and engagements right throughout the various stages of the project, so that people could see the work in progress and comment on it. It was, in that sense, there was kind of an iterative evolution of the project through our dissemination activity, supported by UVAC. Beyond that, we also were very fortunate in our collaboration with NHS England, as it's become, because they used their network of regional managers and could pull together various employer networks as well. So we could do this exactly the same kind of thing through the regional manager network through to employers. We did other specific things with the Council of Deans for Health through various communications. So we did really quite a broad-ranging set of activities, trying to make sure that the sounds a bit corny, but the good news was that this level 3 apprenticeship is really, really good as a preparation for people accessing registered professions in the healthcare sector, and you really should pay notice to it. And here's why it's really good and how you can be confident that it's really good in a language that you understand, trying to get the kind of that key message over to as many people as possible. Because, we will all benefit from more people progressing into registered professions who've had the kind of experience that people will have who've undertaken the level 3 senior healthcare support worker apprenticeship. But there were other things beyond that, as you were kind of alluding to. There's something wrong with apprenticeships not being given a credit value. It doesn't make any sense. So highlighting that incongruity was also a kind of an underlying theme, if you like, and that it presents a context in which you can start to challenge some of the existing thinking around how apprenticeships are constructed. And I think we had started to do that. That's a challenging thing to do because a lot of these things are quite hardwired. So we started to challenge some of those preconceptions and some of the ways, not having apprenticeships with a credit value, a number of credits associated with it, and so we've started that initiative, but I'd say there's a lot to do in that space further.
Yeah,
that's how I'd put it.
Can I just jump back in on that? I think one of the what was quite interesting, I think it was at the UVAC event last year, conference last year, where actually when we kind of did a bit of a poll, didn't we, and in terms of the level 3 senior healthcare support worker apprenticeship, and a lot of institutions and providers hadn't heard of it as an apprenticeship, and so that was quite surprising in itself. But also I think what was quite important with the work that we did, although we knew it was levelled, it had been given a level 3, what we want, the value of using the credit level descriptors to kind of map the knowledge, skills and behaviours against the expectations of level 3 within the descriptors, was actually what that did is it highlighted that within that apprenticeship, there was really high level skills that the learners were developing, the apprentices were developing, that were really fundamental to higher education learning. So things like problem solving, research and inquiry, they were seen in real depth within the senior healthcare support worker apprenticeship. That are the sorts of things that admissions tutors will see as valuable for progression onto the higher level program. So for me, what was really crucial was about being able to really present the value, not just in terms of the notional hours and total amount of time the volume of that apprenticeship, but actually the value of the learning that was undertaken within that apprenticeship.
Do you have a view, Claire, on where you'd like to go next with it outside of healthcare? Have you got your eye on, any programs that you think, oh, I'd quite like to head off in that direction with this one? And I open that up to Daryll and Mandy as well.
Yeah, I think not specifically as one context, but I think just for me, stressing the applicability of the work that we've done to a wide range of contexts. So it would be good and exciting if we were able to kind of repeat it in a different context. But yeah, Daryll, where do you think?
There's a reason, in a sense, why healthcare might be top of the list. It's because we haven't got enough people working in the healthcare sector to keep us all healthy. And there's not much in life that's probably more important than that. And everyone can see the effects of that in their lives, and the lives of their relatives and loved ones, etc. So, given that it's been clearly identified that there's an issue for healthcare support workers, who are those people who are working hand in hand with people in registered professions, directly affecting people's lives, they're leaving the NHS because they haven't got sufficient career progression. Their excellent experience and qualities is not being recognised sufficiently by the NHS in terms of career progression, and not sufficiently recognised by higher education institutions in terms to support that career progression. That's having a very significantly negative consequence on the ability of the NHS to deliver high quality healthcare. And if we weigh up two things, on the one hand, you might have some universities that are selective universities that have certain standards in terms of their entry criteria. And that entry criteria stands as a proxy for their market position in terms of their excellence. But a consequence of them applying that is that 14,000 people who are well qualified with great experience don't progress their careers, which means we don't have the people in the workforce to perform the healthcare service and services that we all need. It's completely counterproductive. So, and this has been a long-standing thing. This is not new. This is at least 10 years old since, from Talent for Care, that people have known this. And so it's kind of imminent in terms of its impact, and it's a required action for us all, really, to do something about. So I think there is a clear reason why that's a priority. That's not the only area that you could look at in the healthcare sector, however. There are lots of other things you could do in the healthcare sector, but I would say probably, given the significance and importance of healthcare for all the quality of all of our lives, it's reasonable to suggest that's pretty high up there, if not right at the top. You can see it. You can look to other areas, other perhaps public services. Whether that's policing or other areas, you can see how that could have a direct relevance to. And more broadly, if you're looking at the government's work on its industrial strategy, if you're trying to enable the skills that the country needs so that we can all become more productive, so that we have the economic growth to support the public services that we all want, then we need to support the development of those skills and capabilities effectively. And that means recognising the quality of learning where it exists. So if someone has got level 3 learning through an apprenticeship, it needs to be appropriately recognised so that they can progress their careers effectively. And all the while it isn't, we are undermining our own capability to support ourselves and have a high quality, existence.
Yeah, it's so clear to me why why that judge I mentioned wrote what they did, because clearly could see the broader application of it. And I think it's that piece for me about, it's one thing, we've all talked about social mobility and transition today, for us to talk about the importance of pathways and transition and so on. But the reality is there are some bits of it, unless we take a piece of rough sandpaper, to the points in the system, the breaks, if you like, all the way up, that actually end up being barriers for us to be successful, then that just becomes rhetoric, really, doesn't it? Because we're not allowing people to make those changes. The other one, as you guys were talking, that came to mind for me, which may or may not be relevant, is that I sit in meetings often with a different kind of hat on when I'm thinking about the academy chains, looking at teaching assistants and trying to move them through to teacher status. Now, the fact that we've even got those level 3, level 4 apprenticeships sitting there now is great, but there's still a little bit of a creaking of that in actually helping people to make those moves across, because as you describe, of the issues with credit. Let me get you to take a broader lens, if I may, which is coming away from the project specifically, but talking about the collaboration between your organisations, because actually just collaborating can be really tough, to kind of get that right. Sometimes competing priorities, sometimes we start off with good intent, but actually we get too busy. So talk to me about, I guess the open question is, how did this group of people come about? Where did this come from? And actually, what lessons have you learned through your collaboration that you would like to apply in other contexts, or perhaps some of the barriers or challenges you've come up against that you think other people would want to hear about?
Well, Claire's already set out what the impetus was. So this was a Health Education England funded project with the purpose of, sort of showcasing the value of this particular support healthcare worker role, and for us to ensure that there was clear articulation in stepping into their next level of learning, where perhaps there were current barriers, of which the professional bodies were not one, actually. I think it firmly was actually the barrier sat within higher education admissions. But this small sort of this tripartite arrangement between Daryll, me and Claire really came about from the close cooperation that we had in the process of actually agreeing the National Progression Agreement, articulation of why we came down on the side of a particular size or number of credits for the level 3 senior healthcare support worker apprenticeship. And we recognised actually that there was value in extending the work that we had done as a project and writing that up in a more sort of academic way to showcase the things that we were trying to say in terms of clear messaging, which was there was that absolute value in these learners in progressing into higher education programmes, including degree programmes in allied health and nursing, because there wasn't sufficient recognition for the value of the apprenticeship. And as Daryll has said, these were individuals who'd been working in the sector, within their context, within their practice for many years, alongside the professionals that they aspired to be. And actually, probably in essence, were better qualified to step into higher education than those who had, high grades at A level. So really, the three of us decided actually that we were going to really capitalise on our standing within higher education to be able to kind of reflect on it in an academic way as to what its merits were, but how it could be adapted. So we were looking at a model that could be adapted in different contexts. And we were up against actually a national move by government and UCAS to do the same thing in terms of giving recognition for the value of level 3 apprenticeships alongside A levels and T levels and applied generals for the purpose of progression. And we actually kind of came up with a solution that we preferred, but which actually UCAS have come up with a different sort of solution, which is to use duration as the measure of the value or size of a level 3 apprenticeship. So we had some really quite meaningful policy context within which we were working. So really the collaboration came out of the moves within the system to do something a bit different to what we were proposing, but we had to really ensure that we lobbied hard for the use of credit as opposed to any other form of measure, giving value to the apprenticeship at level 3 for the purposes of progression.
Thank you, Mandy. Claire, let me ask you something, and then I'm going to ask Daryll a slightly different question, knowing that Mandy has a hard stop in terms of another meeting after this one. So, Claire, tell us anything you've picked up that you're kind of taking forward into the next collaboration, if you like, that you'll get involved in.
I think what was kind of key with us was our shared kind of passion for what we were trying to achieve, and I think we had real clear objectives from the start in terms of what what our end goal was. And I think through, as I previously said earlier, through the Seek network, we had something. It was so lovely to be have been part of something in terms of the review of the last Seek credit level descriptors, to be able to say, we've got something that could provide a solution here to kind of reducing kind of these barriers. But I think our shared passion for what we wanted to achieve, based on our previous experiences in our teaching or kind of policy lives, made the collaboration really successful. So I think that has got to be fundamental moving on to that's got to be core to any other future collaborations.
And I hope you won't mind me saying, Claire, that Mandy had to do a bit of persuasion to get you to come on today, yes, because you were a bit worried that it was going to be apprenticeship focused. But actually, I think for me, as an outsider looking in on your project, one of the reasons it's worked is because you're not from an apprenticeship background, and actually the reality is your specialism is your specialism. So therefore, it allows us, for me, when we're at our most innovative, when we're collaborating, it's because people can come from very different perspectives in order to, as you say, achieve a common objective and goal at the end of it. So I think that's really exciting, actually, because too often, perhaps, our collaboration in an apprenticeship space, we kind of navel gaze with other apprenticeship people. And I think we do that between FE and HE too often as well. There's more work we need to do in that space. But we do that within each of our own boxes. That's not because we're terrible people. It's just the nature of who you end up spending your time with.
Yeah.
Go on, Mandy, you're going to come in.
It helps that the three of us really like each other, actually. So it was easy
Yeah.
to spend, post completion of the project for the purpose of which it was commissioned, to look at, getting it, an article into a peer-reviewed journal. We were recognised earlier this year by the Universities Association for Lifelong Learning about the work that we had done. I think we won an award during the summer for the work that we did in writing up the project and its findings and its purpose.
When I moved to the Open University in a slightly different role, in research and reading, particularly with Daryll, I started seeing, papers that Daryll had written and things like that. So for me, working with both Mandy and Daryll on this is an absolute privilege, and because, they are two professionals to aspire to be and to be like. So actually, when we had the recent, publication, our chapter, it's a real joy to have my name next to both of them on a publication. I mean, how brilliant is that? So yeah, I think just for me, working with people, that it gives me an aspiration really to work towards.
That's really good to hear. And I have on my list of things I have to do by 2027 is my professional doctorate with Daryll, which Mandy has been like, you need to do it, you need to do it, you need to do it. So it's not forgotten. It's not forgotten, that's for sure. So Daryll, I've got one question for you. Then I'm going to give Mandy the last one actually. So Daryll, yours is a personal question, which is, when you think about your kind of career and where you are now, and at that point when you retire and you just play football at all times, which of course is what you really want to be doing, what is the thing that you hope that the sector will remember you for?
To be honest, I'm not really bothered about being remembered. It's not really what I'm into it for. I think I'd be happy if some aspects of what I've done has enabled more people to access learning opportunity in a way that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And that, I'd contributed to people thinking differently about the value of vocational learning, apprenticeship learning, work-based learning, and understanding that learning is just learning, and that it deserves to be recognised, and that we all benefit from having that kind of equitable approach to recognising learning, and that supporting people's career progression through their lives into professional roles has what they call externalities. It brings benefits that are broader than just the fact that somebody's trained in a job and is earning a salary. There's the more we support people's professional learning, the less crime there is. The less satisfaction people have with the more satisfaction rather people have with their lives. People interact with each other, in a better way, in a nicer way, etc. I mean, it might sound silly in one way, but it's a fact that the more people that are more highly educated, the better the world is for us all.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't it be nice if
to be remembered for? Is it, even though he didn't want to be? That's not a bad thing.
I feel as though, Daryll is incredibly modest. Professor Daryll Bravenbour. I first met Daryll almost 13 years ago when we were recording a podcast. At the time when you had to record a podcast in a proper studio in some basement office, and what Daryll has done and what my predecessor Adrian Anderson has done, and I like to think that I've kind of continued to do, is to articulate well why it is that we have had a concept like degree apprenticeships delivered by universities that have been such a success. There are always system failures or shortcomings, but I think actually Daryll, in his academic writings and his contribution to knowledge production, what he's really explained well is that we've created a really brilliant UK invention, and that degree apprenticeships, higher apprenticeships represent the best of both worlds. So he's given us some concepts that we've explored, and we've been encouraged to sort of challenge around, and I think that really is Daryll's legacy. The strategic thinker in this space, I think, of all time. And I don't say that because he's my friend and he's been my mentor, but actually that is absolutely the truth. We stand on the shoulders of Daryll Bravenbour and the work that he has done in this space. But what I like to think is that, because actually we're a little bit behind Daryll in terms of age. Claire's a little bit behind me in terms of, her retirement date, is that actually we are continuing to add in our sort of knowledge co-production, in our writing, we're adding to that conversation, to that dialogue, to those discursive shifts.
You should come every Monday, Dow, shouldn't you? You should come every Monday.
It's in danger of starting to sound like an obituary, but
or a very long epitaph.
I'll write
I'm not quite sure how we'll deal with that one.
Well, I mean, what I've most enjoyed is working with lovely people that make me laugh and are very happy to tell me when I'm wrong. That's
You'll always get that in this room. You'll always get. My favourite memory of Daryll is him having one of the best experiences of his life, going off to the States to play in a really important football match for England and getting a call from Ofsted, and none of that happening. They've got a lot to answer for, Daryll. Mandy, 1 minute, because I know you need to be in another meeting, but I just want to give you the last word. Because of your role at UVAC, the question for you is one of, if you could give policymakers one piece of advice in relation to apprenticeships, what would your one piece of advice be?
It's very relevant to today, which my advice is to ministers and to government officials, which is don't be retrogressive. Don't roll back the system of apprenticeships. We should be evolving it into, for example, creating progression pathways into, well, beyond level 7 and into level 8, given the need for innovation and creation and need by industry, which is to celebrate the success of a system that has become unique, that we're exporting some of the models and the methods that we're using to deliver what I've already described as a brilliant UK invention. It was a government failure previously sort of to recognise that development through many of the best traditional apprenticeships did not simply stop at level 3. We really pushed beyond that and looked at, what was possible beyond real crafts into what are regarded as formalised professions. So don't lose that. So by making some shifts and changes to the way that we are funding, for example, postgraduate apprenticeships, is just going to curtail some of the ambition and the aspiration that we've managed to achieve.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you. I have thoroughly enjoyed seeing you this morning. I've also enjoyed the interludes we've had, which may not appear on the final version, where we've had dogs, we've had a parcel delivered, we've had everything going on, and Claire's internet decided to just give up the ghost at one point as well. But we get there, don't we? We get there. I've loved hearing from you all. Thank you so much for coming on. And if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a wonderful Christmas.
You too.
You
Thank
too.
you very
See you
much.
later, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.